Pigeons. They're everywhere, perched on buildings, strutting through city parks, and staring at you with those blank, unblinking eyes. They seem harmless, almost comical in the way they bob their heads as they walk. But what if I told you, they've been playing a long game? A game where we think they're just simple, clueless city birds, when in reality, they are some of the most intelligent, adaptable, and historically significant creatures on the planet. These birds are not just surviving in the chaos of human civilization, they are thriving in ways that we rarely stop to appreciate. The truth is, pigeons have tricked us into thinking they're ordinary when, in fact, they are extraordinary. And once you know the full story, you'll never look at a pigeon the same way again. Most people assume pigeons are dumb. After all, they walk in front of cars, fly straight into windows, and peck at crumbs like they have nothing else going on in their little bird brains. But what if I told you that pigeons have problem-solving skills that rival some primates? Scientists have tested their intelligence in laboratories, and the results are astonishing. Pigeons have demonstrated the ability to recognize themselves in mirrors, a rare feat in the animal kingdom. This suggests self-awareness, a trait associated with highly intelligent species like dolphins, elephants, and great apes. Most birds fail the mirror test, but pigeons? They pass with flying colors. And it doesn't stop there. Pigeons have been trained to differentiate between different artistic styles, choosing between Monet and Picasso with surprising accuracy. They can recognize all 26 letters of the English alphabet and even distinguish between real words and nonsense words. But perhaps the most mind-blowing ability of all? Pigeons have been successfully trained to identify cancer cells in medical images. That's right, these so-called dumb birds can spot cancer with a level of accuracy comparable to trained pathologists. If that doesn't make you question everything you thought you knew about pigeons, nothing will. So, how do they pull this off? It turns out that pigeons have an incredibly dense and well-organized brain structure, with more neurons than you'd expect for their size. Their learning abilities are remarkable, allowing them to pick up new skills quickly and retain that knowledge for long periods. Scientists have even discovered that pigeons are capable of multitasking better than humans. In experiments, pigeons have been able to switch between tasks faster than people, suggesting their brains are optimized for efficiency in ways we don't yet fully understand. And here's the kicker, pigeons learn by watching. That's right, if one pigeon figures something out, others can quickly catch on just by observing. This makes them incredibly adaptable, capable of learning from both experience and from watching their flockmates. So, the next time you see a pigeon watching you, don't be so sure it's just staring blankly. It might be analyzing you, learning from your behavior, and using that knowledge to its advantage. Pigeons aren't just intelligent, they're also masters of survival. They've been living alongside humans for thousands of years, adapting to our cities, our habits, and even our individual faces. That's right, pigeons can recognize human faces. Not only can they tell people apart, but they also remember who has been kind to them and who has been hostile. In one experiment, researchers found that pigeons could distinguish between friendly and unfriendly humans, and even after months had passed, they would avoid people who had previously shooed them away. Think about that for a moment. In a world where even some humans struggle to remember faces, pigeons have mastered it. If you've ever fed a pigeon in the park, there's a good chance it remembers you. And if you've ever chased one away, don't be surprised if it avoids you, or worse, warns its friends about you. Studies suggest that pigeons communicate this information to one another, essentially keeping a mental list of which humans are safe and which ones are threats. It's like they've created their own surveillance network, and you might already be on their radar. But how do they do it? Pigeons have excellent vision, with a capacity to see a broader range of colors than humans. They also process visual information incredibly fast, meaning they can analyze faces, movements, and even body language in a split second. This ability allows them to navigate complex urban environments, dodge predators, and, most importantly, keep track of the humans around them. If pigeons were spies, they'd be some of the best in the world, blending into crowds, quietly gathering intelligence, and always watching. And if that's not enough, pigeons also have an incredible memory for locations. They can remember exactly where food sources are, mapping out their surroundings with an almost photographic precision. That's why you'll often see pigeons returning to the same spots, seemingly knowing exactly where to go without hesitation. They don't just wander aimlessly, they have a mental GPS system that helps them navigate the city with pinpoint accuracy. Today, we see pigeons as street birds, but not long ago, they were considered some of the most valuable animals on the planet. In both world wars, pigeons were used as messengers, carrying vital information across enemy lines. Some of these birds saved thousands of lives by delivering messages that human couriers couldn't. One famous pigeon, named Sher Ami, was shot in the chest but still managed to fly 25 miles to deliver a message that saved 194 soldiers. That's not just intelligence, that's bravery. And long before modern communication, pigeons were the world's fastest form of mail. Ancient civilizations used them to send messages across vast distances. In the Roman Empire, pigeons were used to relay military commands. In medieval times, rulers used them to send secret messages. Even in the 19th century, stockbrokers used pigeons to transmit market prices faster than telegraphs. These birds weren't just useful, they were a vital part of global communication. It wasn't just their speed that made them valuable, it was their uncanny ability to find their way home, no matter where they were released. This homing instinct has puzzled scientists for centuries. Some believe pigeons use the Earth's magnetic field, while others suggest they rely on the sun, stars, or even low-frequency sound waves. The truth is, we still don't fully understand how pigeons navigate with such precision. But one thing is clear, pigeons were once treasured, even revered. At their peak, they were worth more than gold. Kings and emperors relied on them. Armies depended on them. And now? They're seen as nothing more than city pests. If pigeons had emotions like humans, they'd probably be laughing at us right now, because they know the truth. They're still just as smart, just as capable, and just as resourceful as they've always been. If you've ever tried to catch a pigeon, you've probably noticed something strange. They always seem to know exactly when to take off, just out of reach. It's almost as if they can predict your movements before you make them. And in a way, they can. Pigeons have an extraordinary ability to read body language and anticipate threats, allowing them to react in the blink of an eye. Their fast reflexes and quick decision-making make them some of the most elusive birds on the planet. But here's where it gets even weirder. Pigeons have been observed using deceptive tactics to evade predators and even humans. One of the most fascinating tricks pigeons use is the fake injury maneuver. If a pigeon senses that a predator is too close to its nest, it might pretend to be injured, limping away in a slow, exaggerated motion. This distracts the predator, drawing it away from the nest and into a chase. But the moment the predator gets too close, the pigeon suddenly takes off at full speed, leaving its pursuer confused and empty-handed. This tactic, known as feigning injury, is used by only a handful of animals, including some species of birds, foxes, and even certain types of fish. But deception isn't just for escaping predators. Pigeons also use it in social situations. Studies have shown that pigeons will sometimes fake interest in one food source while secretly targeting another. If a pigeon discovers a good feeding spot but doesn't want to attract competition, it may act uninterested, walking away from the food only to return when no other pigeons are watching. This behavior suggests a level of planning and strategy that many people wouldn't expect from a bird. And pigeons don't just trick each other, they trick humans, too. In cities, pigeons have learned that people are more likely to feed birds that appear hungry or desperate. Some pigeons have been observed approaching humans with an exaggerated, needy demeanor, fluffing up their feathers, tilting their heads, and even making sad-looking movements, all in an attempt to get food. And guess what? It works. These birds have figured out how to manipulate human emotions, turning their helpless act into a successful survival strategy. Pigeons don't just outthink us, they also see things we can't even imagine. While humans rely on 3 primary color receptors, red, green, and blue, to perceive the world, pigeons have 4. This means they can see ultraviolet, UV, light, giving them access to an entirely different spectrum of colors. To a pigeon, the world isn't just more colorful, it's a completely different visual experience. But pigeons don't just see more colors, they see faster. Their brains process images at an incredibly high speed, meaning they perceive motion much more quickly than we do. While a human might see a blur when something moves too fast, pigeons can break it down into individual frames, like a high-speed camera. This ability is why pigeons are so difficult to catch off guard. They react to threats almost instantaneously, dodging obstacles and avoiding danger before we even realize what's happening. And this supervision isn't just useful for survival, it's also essential for their incredible navigation skills. Scientists believe that pigeons use their enhanced vision to detect subtle changes in the Earth's magnetic field, allowing them to sense directions with extreme precision. Some researchers even suggest that pigeons might be able to see the magnetic fields as a type of visual overlay, giving them an internal compass that guides them across vast distances. This theory would explain why homing pigeons can return home from hundreds of miles away without getting lost. But pigeons' visual abilities don't just help them navigate the world, they also allow them to recognize human faces with shocking accuracy. Because they process visual detail so quickly, pigeons can remember the tiniest differences in facial features, allowing them to identify specific people even after long periods. This means that if a pigeon has ever interacted with you, whether you fed it, ignored it, or chased it away, it likely remembers exactly who you are. And if you ever run into the same pigeon again, don't be surprised if it reacts based on its past experience with you. When you think of pigeons, you probably imagine them hanging out in city parks, scavenging for crumbs, or roosting on building ledges. But what if I told you that pigeons also have an entire underground world, hidden from human eyes? That's right. While we see pigeons in the open every day, a vast number of them spend most of their time in places we rarely notice: tunnels, abandoned buildings, and the secret corners of cities where humans rarely go. Many pigeons live in subway tunnels, thriving in the warm, hidden spaces beneath our feet. In major cities, pigeons have been found nesting in ventilation shafts, underground train stations, and even inside old, abandoned subway lines. These underground hideouts provide perfect shelter, keeping pigeons safe from weather, predators, and human interference. Some urban explorers have even reported massive pigeon colonies living in these hidden spaces, forming their own secret societies beneath the streets. But pigeons don't just live in these underground spaces, they've adapted to them. Studies have shown that pigeons raised in low-light conditions, such as subway tunnels, develop enhanced night vision compared to their above-ground counterparts. This means that some city pigeons have evolved to navigate in near darkness, allowing them to survive in places where few other birds can. They've essentially created an entire second world beneath our feet, invisible to most humans. And here's where it gets even stranger: pigeons seem to communicate between these underground networks and the surface world. If you've ever wondered why some pigeons suddenly vanish from an area, only to reappear days or weeks later, it's possible they've been traveling through these hidden pathways. It's as if they have an underground transportation system that we barely understand. So the next time you see a pigeon emerging from a subway entrance or disappearing into a dark alleyway, just remember, you might be witnessing a tiny glimpse of their secret world. So, after all this, the real question is, who's actually being fooled? For years, we've looked at pigeons as simple, dumb birds that exist only to eat scraps and make a mess. But the truth is, pigeons have been quietly outsmarting us all along. They've mastered city life, learned to read human behavior, and even played a role in shaping history. They aren't just surviving in our world, they've adapted to it better than most other species. So the next time you see a pigeon staring at you from a park bench, don't be so sure it's just sitting there mindlessly. It might be watching, remembering, and calculating its next move. Because one thing's for sure, pigeons aren't just ordinary birds. They're undercover geniuses, and they've been tricking us this entire time.